Welcome to The Competitive Edge. My name is Scott Britton, and I'm here to help you answer a question that we all have. How can I get an edge in my business and life? Each week, we're going to uncover how some of the most successful and inspiring entrepreneurs, entertainers, and thought leaders get an edge, so you too can reach your full potential. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's get started. What's up, lifelong learner readers? Today, I have something exciting to share with you. Very soon, I am launching a podcast, and today, I want to give you a sneak peek of what's to come. I've been wanting to do a podcast ever since I fell in love with listening to them on my boring commute to work 3.5 years ago. Well, I finally decided to buckle down and create my own in an attempt to answer a question that I've been asking myself for as long as I can remember. How do the most successful and inspirational people get an edge in their businesses and lives? What do they do differently than everyone else that gets them those amazing results that we want for ourselves? Together, we're going to be discovering the answer to this question by interviewing some of the highest performing entrepreneurs, entertainers, and thought leaders. And these aren't going to be fluffy conversations, I can promise you that. If you're interested in hearing real talk from everyone from entrepreneurs who've sold their company for 9 figures to NFL players to people living the 4-hour work week, I think you're going to like it. Now, today I want to leak an episode with my buddy Mike Hrostoski. If you don't know Mike, he's a men's coach who helps high-performing men master the relationships with their women and their work. Mike first got on my radar because it seemed like every successful entrepreneur I knew on Facebook was publicly raving about his skills and perspective. The crazy thing is that he now works with these type of people despite the fact that he hasn't been in the coaching game that long. He actually left a cushy and lucrative corporate job to launch his coaching business, which now operates globally as Mike travels the world. I'm so fired up to bring you this interview because we get real and we talk about some of the things that most people are afraid to chat about publicly. Things like telling people exactly how you feel, how to aggressively chase your innermost desires, and why those secrets you don't want anyone to know about are probably holding you back. In the process, we both get pretty open about some of the things we felt in our own journeys. And I have a feeling you are probably going to be able to relate to some of the things that we talk about. Alrighty, I've done enough talking. I hope you enjoyed this leaked interview with Mike Hrostoski. Mike, how you doing, man?
Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you today, man, because I know that you have a ton of great knowledge to share with our listeners. Mike, today I wanted to focus on one thing that we've talked about before, and that's how we become better communicators, both in how we communicate with others and ourselves. Now, Mike, you work with lots of high-performing men, people that seem to maybe even have it all figured out. But a lot of these guys are still not attracting the things that they want into their life because they're not communicating as effectively as they could be. What are some of the things that you typically see amongst clients, amongst thought leaders, entrepreneurs, different type of people that are probably listening to this show that could be improved in terms of communication?
So as you ask that question, I guess like 2 things come to mind. One is around lying, and one is around like expressing emotion. So, my whole, like the whole foundation of my coaching practice, of everything that I stand for, is just like integrity is the magic elixir of life. And I've sort of like learned that in my own journey from being in my teens and early 20s, like really being out of integrity, a lot of like lying, cheating, stealing. I was what people would call kind of a bad kid. I've gotten in trouble a lot and like cheated on tests in school and just like cheated on girlfriends. And it's because I started the habit of lying when I was young, because I would lie to my parents. I had pretty strict Christian parents, and I would lie to them just because I didn't want to lose their love. So I just, I could tell them the truth, but then I would lose their love. And I've heard that story a lot from a lot of men. Like when we really go back into the, sort of into the history of their life, like that's when it started. And then sometimes we start that habit at a young age, and then it just keeps on going through life. So like my whole like my whole platform is just like live a congruent life and kind of like stop lying and start living. And I've seen men completely turn their lives around just by telling the truth. And we can go a lot more into that, just around ideas of like radical honesty and how to speak your truth and how to ask for what you want.
I would love to do that, because it is kind of counterintuitive in some ways, that I think a lot of us out there think that when we are 100% honest, we might make somebody we know, we might hurt their feelings, or they might not want to work with us again, or they might think less of us if we're totally honest. It's actually counterintuitive in some ways. So I would love to hear just a few real life examples that you've experienced where people were previously not telling the truth in situations, and how telling the truth actually made them have much more abundance in their life.
Sure. Well, I'll give my examples. I mean, so for me, one area is women. I used to be completely terrified of girls. I didn't like kiss a girl till I was a senior in high school, and it was more like she kind of forced a kiss on me. Like I was the absolute just shyest. Girls terrified me completely. And a lot of that was just from my upbringing and my beliefs around women. And so somewhere, I think in about my like mid-20s, I realized that like if I just ask for what I want, and if I just speak my truth, I'll have much better results. And I think that's the time I got into pickup. And I think pickup is kind of a gateway drug for a lot of men, because it's such a big pain point of just wanting to feel love from women. So got into the pickup stuff, tried that for a bit, and then really learned through trial and error that just all I have to do is just speak my truth of like whatever's my truth, and women love it. Like some do, some don't, but that's fine. So an example is like when I talk to women, I just tell them the truth. Like I don't have any weird pickup lines. I'll just say like, oh my gosh, like who are you? You have a great energy, or you're really beautiful, and I just had to meet you. And then we'll just kind of instantly get into like a really deep conversation, and there's no, there's no BS kind of like cheesy pickup line stuff like they teach in some other like programs or boot camps. And, like if she says, oh, I have a boyfriend, that's a great, like, of course you do. Just like, thank you for being here. Like, I really appreciate you being here. You made my day. And yeah, like I don't lie at all. And I don't hide my desires at all. I think that's something that a lot of men who find themselves like in that dreaded friend zone, it's because they're lying. Like they're lying to the women in their lives. If you go on 5 coffee dates, like with a girl that you really like, but you never express your feelings, like you're lying. You're lying about your needs. You're lying about your like desires. So as a, choice A is to say, oh, hey, like, do you want to hang out? And then you hang out and like you're secretly pining after her and you wish you could form some sort of relationship, but you keep that to yourself. Choice B would be like, hey, like, I want to take you out on a date. Like, are you free next week? It's much more direct, but it's saying that like, hey, I'm interested in you. Like I'm interested in having a relationship or having some sort of connection.
It's so simple, and it seems so obvious to say these type of things and just to authentically and directly communicate your desires instead of saying, hey, I like your shoes, or where are you from, when really you just think the person's really beautiful or interesting and you want to see what they're like. But even though it is so simple, I still, even in my own life, have experienced this. it's not as easy to do. It's not easy to just start communicating directly and authentically, even when we know that's the most powerful way to talk to people. Mm-hmm. What do you say to people that when they want to start becoming this type of communicator, whether with women or people in the office, what are some initial steps that somebody can take to start integrating this type of communication into their life?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So there are times in all of our lives when we're sitting in a meeting or we're with some friends or we're in front of a woman where we really want to say something and it's literally sitting in the back of our throat. And and it's like you want to open your mouth and say it, but then you don't say it. And then 5 minutes later, you regret not saying it. So I don't have that anymore. I used to for pretty much all of my life. I would always be like, damn it. Like, I wish I freaking said something. I wish I told something to that girl who was like looking at me like longingly with his eyes and but I didn't have the balls to say anything. Or I wish I spoke up in that meeting because I have a really good idea on, like how to make the company more money or how to reduce expenses. But like, I freaking didn't say anything. So I don't have that anymore, but it took a lot of work to get here. And in those moments when you want to say something, just say it, just let it come out. And the first couple of times, like it'll feel like jumping out of an airplane. Like it'll be scary. Like your heart will be racing and you'll say, oh my gosh, I don't believe I'm about to say what I actually want to say. But then when you say it, I promise you, like just by saying it, it'll feel better. And then you'll start to build that muscle of speaking your truth. And as it builds, I mean, it's been a slow process for me. And even now, I mean, like I'd be lying if I told you that I like approach every beautiful woman that I meet. And if I always, in every moment, like speak my absolute truth, like there's still some times where like I get shy or or I mess up. I'm human, right? Like we're all human and we all make mistakes all the time. But, in general, when I'm with someone, I pretty much speak my truth. And, but it's a constant practice. And
yes,
I use the word practice a lot. In my work, I do a lot of work around like sexuality and intimacy. And I like the term sexual practice because, as men, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to like get everything perfect and get it right. And especially in sex and, a lot of sexual dysfunction, like erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, which like really isn't a thing. But like that comes from us being so nervous of like getting it right. And I'm going to make sure that I do this right. And I want to be a good lover. And we're like in our heads so much, like we're not even enjoying the experience and like enjoying the pleasure of our own existence, enjoying having a beautiful woman in front of us and like interacting with her. Instead we're in our heads and we're talking and, oh man, I hope I can do this right. And I hope I can pleasure her, instead of just being there and just like enjoying yourself and being in your body and being really fully present to her and just being present in your body. So just treat everything like a practice. I mean, life is a constant practice. And, if anyone ever says, oh, like I've got it all figured out, or if anyone has the word guru after their name, just run.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, because I am always learning. And I mean, some of my greatest teachers I just wrote like a status update about this. Like some of my greatest teachers are a decade younger than me. It's like, I'm going to always keep learning. And I think the minute you think that you have it all figured out, that's when you're in trouble.
It's also when it sounds like life gets pretty boring. I mean, if you knew how to do everything, it wouldn't be fun. Yeah. There's so many things that you just brought up that are so incredibly just reminiscent of my life experience. And I think like one thing that has really helped me, because I'm the same way, man. Like over in my journey, like there was a point where I was not going and I wasn't seeking what I wanted in my life with just zeal. I was all about like protecting my ego and protecting myself instead of just going for what I wanted, without hesitation. And I still am trying to get better at that. But one thing that really helped me was to kind of think of building that muscle as, if you look at like a line graph where, like I'm thinking of like Google Analytics right now, where there's an up, a spike, and then a down, and then a spike, and then a down, and a spike, and then down. And what happens is, you know, you start building up, you start taking these actions, and then maybe you mess up for a day or two and you go back down, and then you're taking more action, you go back up, and you keep going back up. And all of a sudden, like, you've created a new normal for yourself where maybe you're not going after the things that you want, speaking your truth every moment of every single day. But on average, there's like a new equilibrium for you where you're taking a lot more actions, speaking a lot more truth, and going for things directly because you've built this muscle. And you're just starting off in a place that is much more healthy, that's going to get you much more of what you want, whether it's women, whether it's success, whether it's the type of friends that you want in your life, because you did that work and you've created that new normal for yourself.
Yeah, totally. That's a great metaphor. It's a constant process, but every win just kind of builds upon itself, and then it's just slow, incremental process. And yeah, I think so. Like, one thing that just came up for me too, and by speaking your truth, just shame disappears. So I do coaching works, right? So I support men in the areas of life where they like need the most help. And coaching is, it's kind of a mix between therapy and goal setting. It's just kind of like being a guide for someone and holding space for them. And something that I've found is, around shame, that like shame's kind of like, it's like vampires in the sun. Like, shame, when exposed to the light, just disappears, like poof, just like instantly. And, I have guys all the time where they'll share something with me. I mean, something really personal, and they might be crying, and, they're having an emotional release, and they'll say, man, that feels really good. I've never said that to anyone before. So what happens with our secrets, and I just gave a talk recently at a conference called A Life Without Secrets. The Truth Will Set You Free. And I just talked all about how I used to have so many secrets in my life, and it was heavy. It was like walking around with this like huge weight on my chest and feeling stress of, at any moment, someone's going to find out. Like, my dad's going to find out, or my girlfriend's going to find out, people are going to find out that I'm lying. And now I really don't have any secrets. And I go as far as to like post most of them on my blog, and and it's like, that might be a little much. Like, I'm kind of crazy, but I've found that like as soon as I hit publish on a blog post about something that like I used to hate myself for, or something that I used to have shame around, it just poof, it literally disappears. Like, even before someone reads it, it just feels good just to get it off my chest. So even just to play right now on this interview, I was feeling, about 10 minutes ago, I was feeling nervous, and like I was feeling kind of jittery. I had a couple cups of coffee this morning, and I had some juice, and then this interview is really important to me. So I was a little nervous, and I felt like I wasn't showing up as well. And now I'm a lot more like dropped in. Like, I'm dropped into my body. I feel like much more connected. I'm more in my flow. And even by saying that, like, the shame of it just disappeared and I feel fine about it. So yeah, like, that's just one example of just like, as you talk about stuff that you either had shame around or that you hated yourself for, whether you do it to a friend or to a therapist or to a coach or to your men's group, or if you're crazy like me, like you post it on the internet, it literally disappears. And it's like, how do you want to show up, right? Do you want to be carrying those secrets, or do you want to just get that stuff off your chest and like just breathe into the space of like more freedom and just more lightness? Yeah. Have you had experience like that in your life?
Absolutely. Mike, guess who else just had a coffee before this. Guess who else just had a nice coffee before this interview because they wanted to show up their best selves. I had the same exact feelings because I want this podcast to provide as much valuable and impact to as many people as possible. And, you know, this is the first time for me. This is a new type of communication medium that I'm not as familiar with, and making sure that I do the best job I can does weigh on me. So I do things like have coffee. But I totally agree. And I think that's like an interesting thing for people that are listening to this to think about is you mentioned this idea of how do you want to show up? And there's kind of a counterintuitive notion here that a lot of us are intentionally trying to show up, kind of show the world our best, hide the rest, because we think that that's going to give us what we want. Like portray this image of perfection or never making a mistake. Yet in reality, it seems like in your experience, there tends to be more benefits when you do the opposite, when you share your secrets, when you speak your truth. Can you talk about some of the things that we can expect if we start showing up in this more authentic, truthful way that you're alluding to? Some of the positive things.
Yeah. So for one, two big things come to mind. For one, it's more comfortable to be myself. So if I was only sharing the best stuff, then in those periods when I'm going through like stress or going through hard times in my business, I would feel like a fraud. And and I'm just gonna like call some people out. Like there's not like actual people, but if anytime you see like a blogger or someone just like disappear off the face of the earth, it's because they're probably going through some stuff and they can't write because they're totally like blocked off. And if they just spoke the truth about what's going on, then they'd be able to write. But if they think that, oh, you know, if they're used to only showing the best side of themselves, then it just like cripples them. And that's when you see people just like fall off or quit their blogs, or all of a sudden it's like they're only accepting guest posts because they're trying to figure their own stuff out. And honestly, that kind of happened to me in like November, December. I was having some really kind of dark, tough times around like a conference that I'm building, the Conference for Men. And I noticed myself just really blocked, just creatively, and being blocked in my writing. And I realized, oh man, I haven't been sharing about just how hard this has been. And then I started sharing that, and then I could write again, and I could, and my writing and my speaking and just everything got free. So like the most important thing to me, like way more important than anything, is like being happy and having fun and feeling good and like living a life full of joy. And I know, like, I'm just one data point, but I know, like, when I'm carrying around secrets and heavy stuff, like, it's just not as fun. Like, it just feels heavy. So that's really kind of the big thing. It just feels good to live a congruent life and to share. So,
is there, for people that don't have a blog or an online presence, maybe they do and they don't even feel comfortable sharing this, is there another practice, maybe accountability partner, maybe a coach, something, another place they could go where they could share these secrets, and maybe a safer way to kind of onboard the process of not holding these in?
Yeah, great question. So what I do is the crazy like AP calculus part of it. and it took a long time to get here. Like I'm a work in progress, totally. So to start off with, like, even journaling, just getting stuff out. Like I've done exercises where I did one recently when I was in Panama. Like I wrote a bunch of secrets and just like stuff I was holding on to, and I just poured my heart out onto pieces of paper. And normally I would burn it, but I didn't have any fire. So like I ripped it up into pieces and I threw it in the ocean. And that just felt good just to get it off. So journal, just pour your heart out onto pages and then burn them. Just do kind of like your own little fire ceremony. One step past that is to talk to a friend, like talk to a really trustable friend, someone who you trust, someone who you love, and just share. Something else is like, go seek out therapy, seek out professional help, or get a coach, or join a men's group. I'm a huge fan of men's groups. It's like men meeting together to lovingly support each other. And yeah, there's all sorts of ways. There's all sorts of ways to get stuff off of your chest. And like, for everyone listening, it's your choice. So like, whatever feels the best for you to get that stuff off, whether it's a journal or telling someone or writing a blog about it, it's just like whatever feels the best and whatever feels kind of edgy, right? So you should always play to your edge, and it should feel edgy, but it shouldn't feel like, oh my God, if I do this, I'm going to die. Like, so it's that little balance of, don't try and go, like, you can't go from A to Z without going through the entire alphabet. So just do whatever that next step is that feels kind of edgy to you.
Yeah. I love it. It resonates so much with me, and it's just kind of on this larger theme of, and I love the muscle metaphor of kind of building the muscle. People ask me all the time, Scott, how do you go on? I was recently on Good Morning America, Australia version of Australia, and basically talking about how I gave up lying and have a very similar experience. Positive things happen to me doing that. And a lot of my friends were like, dude, how do you go on to in front of 6 million people eating their cereal and tell them how you were a liar and you gave that up? And when I thought about it, it was, well, it didn't start there. It started when I started talking to my friends and trying to be more honest. Then I started writing a blog. Then I started talking about things on my blog that I used to be worried about that my parents would read. Then I started just being completely honest with everybody. And then all of a sudden, when I got to that point of here's a big stage and you're going to have to speak your truth, it wasn't that scary because I had all of those experiences leading up to that point that had kind of broken the barrier that I was afraid of. And it is a process. It is not an overnight, I'm going to hide all my stuff, and the next minute I'm going to go on stage crying out my biggest anxieties, fears, secrets that I'm holding. It's a gradual build. At least it was like that for myself.
Yeah, and then even when you were on that interview, were you kind of nervous?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think people sometimes see, like, I'm a dude. Like, like, we're just dudes, and I think. Because I know I've only been doing this for a couple of years. So I left my corporate job, I guess, 2 years ago. I remember reading blogs and listening to podcasts and seeing people and just like thinking they were superhuman, being like, damn, like this guy has something special that I don't have. Like, just like this life is not for me. 'Cause, it's like, I'm not from a wealthy family, and like, I just stuff like this can't happen to me. But then I just started doing it, and a lot of it happened after my mom passed away. I really, really got I just like dove into life because I was like, you know what, like, I'm going to die. So I'm going to create the most amazing life story possible. And we're just dudes, like, we're dudes just trying to figure it out. And literally showing up every day. Like, I'm afraid every day. Like, I'm afraid of all sorts of stuff, but I just keep pushing my edges because I know it's like, do I want to live a life just like in fear, like I did for like all of my life, including most of my 20s, where I just watched people just like pass me by, and I watched them do this stuff that I wish I was doing, and I felt so much like resentment towards them, and I was like the biggest hater ever. And, it's like, do I want to live that life, or do I just want to say, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to just dive in. Like, I'm so scared. My heart's beating out of my chest, but like, this is my life, and I'm going to make an awesome life story out of it. so yeah, like I'm scared, Scott's scared, we're all scared, but we show up every day, and that, like, that's it. That's what makes the difference.
I love it. I love this idea that everyone is just a dude, because I just I just had this experience, and I was at South by Southwest. There was a list of 3 people that I wanted to meet, and the first day I met one of those people, and actually I'm interviewing them on my podcast. It's Charlie Hone, who was Tim Ferriss's first employee, and has had $1 million product launches, and now he's written 2 books and all this stuff. And I was like, man, this guy is insane. He's a machine. He's so much smarter than me. He's so much more talented and business savvy and all these things. And we had coffee at Whole Foods and ended up hanging out for 6 hours. And at the end of it, I was like, this guy's just a dude. This guy's just like me, just like my buddies. And I think it's so common to immortalize these people who produce content, who are entrepreneurs, who do things that we want to do, and fail to recognize that they have the same human feelings that we have, the same insecurities, the same types of challenges, maybe at different scales, that we face every single day. And for me, that was incredibly empowering, because it allowed me to realize that all of those anxieties, all of those things that I felt like I could get better at, or that seemed really hard to do or impossible, it was totally normal for me to feel that way, because these people that I had immortalized were going through the same exact thing.
Yeah. And yeah, as you said that, something else just came up for me. I get this feedback all the time from people who meet me, just either clients or like when I meet people at events, they're like, you know what, like, thank you so much for sharing the times when things aren't going well, because it just shows that you're human, and I hear people sometimes like thank you for like giving me permission to not be perfect, or like thank you for like showing me that like it's not good all the time. And yeah, like it's not good all the time. Like entrepreneurship is a roller coaster of emotions, especially before a big launch, or before doing something that you've never done before, which is like almost every day. So, it's like if I lied about it, and if I was like, yeah, like this is easy all the time, then like I just wouldn't be telling the truth. And so yeah, just like feedback that I get on a regular basis is like, just like, thank you for giving me permission to be human. Because, I think sometimes we look at people and, and they'll have programs like, yeah, like the superhuman, like badass alpha male blueprint, like join my program and be able to like do whatever and have mind control and punch through walls, and like, and to a certain extent, like some of the stuff that I do is superhuman, like compared to what I used to do. But like, I'm not special. Like I'm just a dude who has been like flexing those muscles over the past 3 years, like every day, like literally every day, pushing my edge. So when you go to a gym on like a Saturday morning, the people at the gym on a Saturday morning look like the people who would be at the gym on a Saturday morning. So it's like, I'm just a dude, but I'm working really hard and I'm trying my best. And like, that's what makes the difference. Just like showing up, even though you're scared, trying your best, and realizing that it's just a practice.
Is there for somebody who's listening to this right now and says, I'm tired of living my life not in a way that I'm not speaking the truth, that I'm not going for what I want, that I'm not pushing myself on the edge, what would you tell them is the first step they should take?
Man, just it's there's so many. I
guess the first one is really just self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
It's just being aware that throughout your day, and just being cognizant that the decisions that you make are either a function of what you want or whether you're protecting yourself. And just asking yourself that question may be something they could do. That's something that has worked for me is writing these affirmations out every single day that had to do with this type of behavior, and just having it in the frontal cortex of my mind that I'm the type of guy that hunts his fear, that goes directly for what he wants. And as I go throughout my day, just the fact that I read that to myself in the morning, or I thought about it, it has a big influence on me, just evaluating, being aware of the decisions I make, and then bringing awareness to it allows me to direct my actions in the appropriate way.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get kind of heavy for a second. So
Let's do it. Let's get real.
So for me, like death has been my greatest teacher, and a lot of the most like amazing people that I know, they sort of have a death story, whether it was a near death experience, or the death of a parent, or the death of a friend, but something happened that just like woke them up to life. And I've talked to dozens of entrepreneurs about this, and they're like, yeah, like when my dad died, I just woke up, or like when my best friend, committed suicide, I just realized like, wow, like I'm going to die and I need to start living. So I talk about death a lot, like in my coaching, and a exercise I like to do with clients is I really drop them down and say, hey, like, so this isn't going to happen, but I want you to imagine that, like you went to the doctor and the doctor said you have a month to live. And really sit with that and like just feel the heaviness of that and grieve if you need to. What would you do if you had a month to live? And, oftentimes they'll be like crying, or they'll just be like, oh my gosh, like I'd tell my mom and dad that I love them. Like I haven't talked to my dad in a couple years, or like I'd tell my girlfriend how just amazing she is. And I'd probably throw a party for my friends, and I'd finally go skydiving. I've wanted to go skydiving for 5 years. And like I would, just like I would do, and they come up with this list of a ton of stuff. And then I say, all right, like that's your homework. That's your homework for the next session. Just do as much of that stuff as possible. Cause that's what you really want to do. That's the essence of what you really want to do, and just start picking stuff off. And, I literally, man, like since my mom passed away, that's kind of how I live life. I just check into like, what would I do if I had a month to live? And I do that stuff. And that's why I've been traveling for the past 2 years. I'm what they call a digital nomad. So, I mean, I don't have an apartment. I live everywhere, and it's amazing. I've had such a rich life getting to just meet people like you and meet people all over the world. And, I do work like I very rarely do something that I don't want to do. Like my work turns me on so much. I love to coach. I love to speak. I love to write. I don't always love all the back end kind of stuff, but it's like I'm working on scaling and growing a business, and I'm loving the process of that. But I do what I want to do all the time. Because I know that, man, like life is so precious and so valuable. So to the guy listening to this, it's like, just like, what would you do if you had a month to live? Or, what would you do? Journal that out and then do it. I think oftentimes it's having conversations with people that you love. So telling mom and dad, I love you, or, apologizing to friends, closing open loops around commitments that you broke. And it's a lot of just apologies, and it's a lot of saying I love yous that have been owed for, months or years. Like I'm getting emotional even just like thinking about it. But
I was gonna say, but there's a weight on my shoulders that's been lifted. Yeah. I haven't even done anything.
Yeah. And by doing that, I mean, I did this exercise with a client one time, and I told them, you know what, I don't care what you do, because it's your life. Like, this is your assignment, but I'm going to call my dad right now. And I called my dad, and I hadn't talked to him in a bit. And I was like, hey dad, like I need to tell you something. And he's like, what? He's like, are you all right? And I was like, I need to tell you. And then I just broke down crying, and I was like, I could barely get it out. And I want to tell you, just, I love you. And like, I love you so much. And I just like appreciate everything that you've ever done for me. And, like, I know we don't always get along, but just like all of my success is because you were just an awesome dad who was always there. Um, and, and in that moment, like I felt in my traps, like I felt like a release. Like I felt like something open up, like a muscular, like an energetic release in my body. And then after I got off the phone, I could like breathe deeper into my body. And I was like, wow, like that was, that was awesome. And I just felt really clear. And from that moment, like just my dad and our relationship's been better because like I was able to speak the truth of what I've been holding back. It's because like I love him so much. And yeah, just it's just so powerful when you like wake up to the reality of your death and just how precious life is. And then from that place of like bringing the realization of death like into life, like that's when just stuff gets awesome. And that's when you're just like sales gets easy, like talking to women gets easy, speaking your truth gets easy, because you're like, yo, I'm gonna die, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna walk up to Richard Branson and just like ask him to hang out and have coffee. Like, who cares?
It's the word that comes, like the phrase that comes to mind for me personally when I think about this is just, the question really is, am I going through the motions? Am I going through the motions, or am I pursuing my deepest desires with zeal? And it's a really powerful question that we can all ask ourselves. I want to transition here to a topic that I think will also mold nicely into the conference for men, because I do want to talk about that, and I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. But one of the struggles that I've had is I've been a guy who's been into personal development, who's tried to exercise these muscles that few people truthfully talk about. And I've noticed that it's, as a young guy, as a young female, anybody, it's hard to find a peer group that appreciates this stuff, that you can have these type of conversations with, that they'll be open to. And I think once you have peers in your life that are into building these muscles, that are into developing these conversations, it just becomes much easier to do. I'm curious if you have any advice, because I get this question a lot, of for where to go to find peers that are into working on these things, having these type of deeper conversations. Where do you go? Because for a while, I was living in New York City, and my finance bros were just concerned about, what bar we were going to, that the game was going to be on, and there was going to be hot girls. They didn't really care about hearing about Scott's secrets or feelings or anxieties. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah. Man, just like so much of what you said, like that's why I created this event. Because as I've traveled just all over the world for the past 2 years, I hear that so much from men too, because there's so many groups for women. There's like goddess circles and women's groups, and I mean dozens of conferences for women's empowerment, which is awesome. I'm all about powerful women, but there's really nothing for men, and I think that's a result of a couple things. One, just men just like don't ask for help because it's beaten out of us when we're young. Just the idea of like, don't cry, or be a man, or being a man means you just suck it up, and it's your duty to just be miserable and work. So like that's why I'm creating this conference, is because for me, my entire life changed when I went to my first conference. I went to Chris Guillebeau's World Domination Summit, the first one in 2011, and it just going to that was like taking the red pill in the Matrix. It was just totally blew my mind, like literally blew my mind of the possibility of life that is available to me. I met people that were doing like what I'm doing now, except I didn't even know that was a path for me. I always thought that that just like the corporate path was it. And I worked for 5 years. I got my MBA. I got the high paying corporate job, and I just thought I would just have to keep working there for the next 30 years and then retire as a vice president. And, like that was it. That's all that I even knew. Like at the age of 30 or at the age of like 29, like I didn't even know that this world of like entrepreneurship was available to me. So go to like, based off of your interest, like whatever you're into. I'm sure most guys listening to this podcast are into like, growth hacking or entrepreneurship or the startup scene, or maybe you're in like the spiritual community or sacred sexuality, or just like whatever your thing is that you're really jazzed about. Go to meetup groups, go to conferences, go to events. Like every conference and every time I go to a conference, even if it's like a $2,000 investment, like I recently spent like $3,000 pretty much going to this one conference, but it literally, like one person, like most of the time it takes one person for me to make that investment back. Just one person, like one coaching client or one relationship with someone who I'm going to do a joint venture with. And my world has expanded so rapidly, but it's because I went to the places where my people are at. And I just can't, I just can't reiterate how important it is to meet the people that you want to become in real life.
Yes.
Like that is totally like, we chatted on Skype, right? You and I, Scott, like a couple months ago, but then when I met you in New York City, it was like a much deeper connection, and I got to experience you and like give you a hug and just like be in your energy for a while. And that's a much deeper connection. And now we're like actual people friends, right, instead of just online friends. And I say this to clients and friends a lot. It's like, get out of your house. Just don't. Technology is great, and I love it, and it's a miracle that I can write something with this machine and like thousands of people read it every month. But like most of my growth, both as a person and my growth in my business, has been being in front of people. Whether it's, most of it has been at events, like at conferences or meetup groups or workshops. Because that in-person connection is everything.
Absolutely. You can't replicate it.
Yeah.
You cannot replicate that. You could write the best email online ever, and it's never going to be the same as a warm embrace. That is for sure. So let's just hypothetically, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed here, say that this dialogue that we've had has resonated with people, and they're looking for a conference, perhaps the conference for men, where they can go and meet other like-minded individuals. What can they expect at the conference for men?
Yeah, so the conference for men, I've done a lot of men's work, and I guess really men's work it's kind of like what we just did for the past 45 minutes, except much deeper. It's men in a room, like openly communicating about their fears, anxieties, their desires, and just like loving and supporting each other. I think it's a whole new paradigm. I think a lot of men, and I know for me, for most of my life, I saw every other man as a competitor. Like when I went to a bar or just in life, like every other dude was competition. But now I see every man as like a brother, and just my reality has changed because of that. Like instead of competition, it's collaboration, and just I have so many awesome bros in my life who just support me and love me, and we just help each other out. And because of that switch, my life has become a lot better. So what to expect at the conference for men is just a community of men who like actually care about you and who won't like who won't tell you that you're weird for like being into personal development, and guys who are doing the work and pushing their edges in all different areas of their life, and just like sharing ideas. Like I love when ideas have sex, and I feel like technology is helping. I mean, we live in the most amazing, fascinating time. We're evolving like crazy, and like the entrepreneurs are talking to the spiritual people, and the startup people are talking to the mystics, and like just like I can go on and on, like quantum physics and everything. It's like it's all coming together, and just like we're learning so rapidly. And the same thing in person. Like when I hang out with really smart people, it's like I become smarter just through osmosis. So anytime I go to an event, like I always walk out a little bit smarter, just like a little bit, with a little bit more self-awareness, like a little bit more emotionally stable. So, at the conference, you'll be meeting other guys who are doing this work. And then I have a team of like 20 different speakers and group leaders to basically walk you through a bunch of exercises and kind of take you through this like hero's journey of a weekend of experiential learning. And I believe that doing something is the best way to learn something. I'm really not even a big fan of like reading or watching YouTube videos anymore. Like I just do stuff. And at this conference, you're going to do stuff. Like some of the exercises and things that we talked about, like you're going to be doing that in real time and literally just like leveling up in your life in a weekend, what, some guys take years to do, but in this like safe container of just a bunch of men who like really care about you and care about your development.
One might even say a bunch of people that are just dudes.
Just like, yeah, totally. And I love that you said that, because like we're all just dudes. Like we're not like, that's it. We're just dudes, but we've been doing this work for years. And I have, some of the speakers have been like leaders in the men's community for, 20 years. They've been literally doing this work, supporting men for 20 years. And like I would go to my conference and I would feel lucky to be there just because of the lineup of like speakers and guides that are going to be there. So yeah, I'm just super excited for it. And I'm just really looking forward to like supporting every man who shows up.
I love it. I kind of want to switch the name of this podcast from The Competitive Edge to Just Dudes, but I don't know if I can do that after recording a couple of episodes already. So the one question that I always like to finish with, Mike, and we might have already answered this, and maybe it's just a good chance to remind people, but if you could give one piece of advice, one habit, one action for people that want to get an edge to create more abundance in their business and life, what would that be?
Yeah, so I have a lot of them, but I'm going to go with, in the face of fear, take a bold step forward. And I actually got this from my brother a couple of years ago, who was like 18 at the time. So just like everyone is my teacher, right? Never stop learning. And he said that to me, in the face of fear, take a bold step forward. So like imagine you're standing at a ledge and you're looking down, and it's like you're looking down a cliff, and that's how it feels when something scares you, whether it's a beautiful woman or a public speaking engagement or like talking to Charlie Hone, you're like going up and talking to Tim Ferriss. Like it's that fear of I'm about to jump off a cliff. And for most of my life, I just stood there, just paralyzed in fear. And I watched people like jumping off the cliff. I watched people jumping by me and jumping off, and I kind of felt jealous that they were taking the leap, but I was too scared. And I didn't do anything in my life, like really paralyzed by fear for most of my life. And just, since my mom passed away and since I got onto this like magic carpet ride of entrepreneurship, anytime I feel that fear, I just take a bold step forward. No matter what, even when I'm afraid. And like literally that mindset shift has just completely changed my life. Just totally, like from the outside, I might look like superhuman or whatever, but it's just because I'm stepping forward instead of just like cowering in fear like I did for most of my life. So In the face of fear, take a bold step forward.
That quote is so strong for me and so actually literal, because one of the things that has been prevalent in my journey has been this whole thing of just going and approaching the most beautiful women that I see in the street every day. And the thing that I always tell myself is, when you see that and you're in that moment of, should I go talk to this person or should I just continue to walk to the gym or whatever I'm doing? It's just move your feet, just take a step. And then once you're on that path, it's like when you wake up to go to the gym in the morning, just put on your shoes. Just take the one step, and then you're going to do that bold. You're going to be so much more likely to take that bold action than if you don't do anything. So I love it, man. I really do. Mike, if people want to find out more about you, get more of this awesomeness that we talked about today, find more out about the Conference for Men, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so the conference information is at conferenceformen.com. And then I live online at hrostoski.com, which is my last name. It's Hrostoski, or you can probably look at it on the on the podcast title. Or
it's almost easy
online
to spell as Smith.
Yeah.
Nice.
But,
well, I will make sure to link all that up. And I think there's only a little bit more time. Do we have an official ticket sales close yet?
Yeah, it's going to be April 11th. I might actually open it up for a little bit. Yeah, I might actually open up for a little bit later, depending on sales. But right now it's April 11th. So definitely check it out, get your tickets. And if anyone has any questions, they can seriously just contact me directly. Find me on Facebook or go to my website. If you're on the fence, if you have questions, just contact me. I'm super accessible, so I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm fired up. I'm excited. I'm walking away with some refreshed perspective. Really appreciate your time.
Cool. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm fired up too. This was fun. This is the best hour of my day so far. So so thanks for having me.
Before we finish up with today's Mindshare, I just want to say thanks for listening to another episode of The Competitive Edge. If you enjoyed the ideas in this episode and want access to all the conversations, tactics, and Mindshares we'll be sharing in the future, the best thing you can do is subscribe to The Competitive Edge on iTunes. And while you're there, if you felt like this show has made a positive impact on your day, it'd be great if you could leave us a review on iTunes as well. Now, I know we covered a lot in this episode, and there might be a few key ideas or tools that you want to remember. So we went ahead and compiled all of the notes, links, and even a full searchable transcript of this conversation for you on lifelonglearner.com. That's life-longlearner.com. I also want to give you the details on a cool contest I'm running right now at lifelonglearner.com/fun. By entering the contest, you'll have a chance to win everything from Amazon gift cards to a free month of having your very own dedicated virtual assistant to an opportunity to come and hang out with me and my buds for a few days, where we'll teach you how to create your very own passive income stream. To enter this contest and learn more about everything we're giving away, head on over to lifelonglearner.com/fun.
Hey everyone, welcome to another little Mindshare segment. So I thought I'd share this because I think this might empower people to make changes in their lives. So one of the reasons that I left New York City was because I was finding it really hard to become the person that I wanted to be. Specifically, like, I was drinking too much, not like a crazy amount, but like going out for drinks 4 nights a week, because that's what people do. And I wasn't eating as well as I'd like to. And I basically was in an environment that was very hard for me to build habits that got me in the position that I wanted to be in, right? I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to give up drinking when I was going out. I wanted to be more disciplined with what I was eating. A lot of mainly really health stuff, but also some mindset stuff too, like being less like obsessively focused on being the most successful person and getting the things that I wanted for my career and my life, and just being happy and enjoying the moment. And so that was a huge reason why I moved to Brazil, was that I thought that the guys that I was going to be living with were going to be a much more conducive environment for me to make those changes, because they had already adopted many of those mindsets. And whether we like it or not, we tend to assimilate as humans to the 5 people that we're surrounded with. Our expectations for ourselves mirror these people. The actions that we take often mirror these people's actions. So like this, it's just an insanely powerful display of how your environment affects you. And when I told people that one of the big reasons why I left New York City was to change a lot of things about my lifestyle, and I thought it would be easier doing that with people that had already made those changes, I got a lot of flack. A lot of people came back to me and said, yeah, well, but like, why wouldn't you want to do it in New York? Because if you can do it in New York, you can go anywhere, and you're going to be like way stronger that way than if you went somewhere where it was easy to make the changes. And like, this is kind of a cop-out. And I did some thinking about it and talked to my friends, and I guess like at the end of the day, what I would say is nobody is keeping score how you got there. Like, no one's asking Tom Brady how he got Giselle. Like, Giselle is his wife. He has Giselle as his wife. No one is asking, like, how you got an amazing six-pack and, like, oh, my God, no, he did paleo versus he did ab workouts at the gym. Like, no, they're looking at your six-pack. And so what I would say is, like, don't like intentionally strive the hard way for the results you want if you don't have to, because nobody is keeping score. People are typically looking at the outcome and results and just focus on that. And at the end of the day, you're the one that gets to live with the outcome of the results. So I'm really confident that, like, for myself, like, supplanting myself in an environment that was more conducive to me making these changes is actually way better because I made the changes. And maybe they're not forged with like such insane difficulty where I had to exercise hero-like willpower every single moment. But the truth is like the first step is making the change, which I did. And I'll worry about the willpower and stuff when I get back to the US. But, you know, before I try to worry about how durable it is, like the first thing you want to do is actually make the change itself. So just another thought. Hope you've enjoyed this mind share. I enjoy sharing with you. I enjoy all the comments that we get from these, and it's really awesome, and I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to me that you take time out of your day to just learn together, because this is a journey that we're all on together. So I hope you go out there today, have an amazing day, and really seize and go after the things that you want. And don't let other people's criticisms or things that may necessarily be holding you back, don't let them hold you back. Do the things that you know are right, and you will be in an amazing place. Talk soon.